layers and layers and layers of information are coming out, not just because objects are being examined in detail, but also because new technologies can be applied to that.
Scientists just found atomic evidence of a cover-up inside the most famous tomb on Earth. King Tut's mask has been lying to the world, and the proof is found in the very atoms of the gold.
In fact, you see some suspicious or unusual traces, like the line here, this one here, which cannot be interpreted so easily.
A hidden name has emerged from the darkness, pointing to a royal secret that was never supposed to be found. The mask was modified in a way that seems impossible even for today's experts. Hands down, this is the biggest discovery since the tomb was first opened. Everything starts with a single candle and a hole in the wall. Icon that fooled the world, November 1922, marks the moment the world changed forever. British archaeologist Howard Carter stood in the dark heat of the Valley of the Kings, chiseling a small hole into a sealed stone door. His hands were shaking as he held up a candle to the opening. Hot air that had been trapped for thousands of years escaped into the tunnel. When asked if there was anything to see, the whisper that came back was simply, "Yes, wonderful things." What lay inside was a treasure pile that defied every rule of history. There were golden chariots, thrones made of jewels, and statues of guards that looked like they were still walking. But deep inside 3 nested coffins was the one object that would become the most famous thing on Earth. It was the Golden Death Mask. This object is massive, weighing more than a heavy bowling ball at 22 pounds of solid gold. It is decorated with blue lapis lazuli, green turquoise, and red carnelian. The eyes are made of white quartz and black obsidian, and they seem to stare right through anyone who looks at them. In ancient Egypt, gold was thought to be the actual skin of the gods. This mask was not just a piece of art or a pretty decoration. It was a piece of spiritual technology. Its job was to help the soul of the dead pharaoh recognize its own body after passing away. Without this mask, the spirit would wander lost for the rest of time. On the back of the head, the priests carved a spell from the Book of the Dead to protect the king during his trip through the darkness. For over 100 years, the world believed this mask was a perfect masterpiece made just for King Tut. People thought it was a true likeness of the boy king who died at only 19 years old. But almost as soon as it was found, some experts started to notice things that did not fit the story. The strange part is that these clues were never hidden. They were sitting in plain sight for every visitor to see. Scientists just refused to believe them because the truth meant that the history of the world's most famous tomb was a lie. This golden face had been tricking humanity for 33 centuries. The mask is made of 2 different types of gold, which is very unusual for a royal commission. The face is a brighter, smoother gold, while the rest of the headpiece has a slightly different color. Some researchers even noticed a faint reddish line where the face meets the stripes of the head. This suggests the mask was not made as one single piece, but was put together like a puzzle. In the light of the Egyptian Museum, the face looks almost too soft and feminine for a male king. Then there are the ears. This is a detail that caused huge fights in the world of science for decades. The ears on the mask are clearly pierced. In the strict world of ancient Egypt, this was a massive problem. While children wore earrings, adult male kings did not wear them in their formal royal portraits. A pharaoh shown as a god would never have holes in his ears on his eternal death mask. It broke every religious rule of the time. This detail suggested that the mask was originally designed for someone else entirely. It was a hint that a secret was buried under the gold, waiting for a way to be seen. The tomb itself provides the first big clue that something was very wrong during the funeral. 70-day impossibility. The death of King Tut was not expected. He was a young man, likely healthy until a sudden injury to his leg became infected. In ancient Egypt, religious law was very strict. Once a king died, the priests had exactly 70 days to finish the mummification and bury him. There was no extra time allowed. 70 days might sound like a long time, but for a royal burial, it is a blink of an eye. Think about the work required. Workers had to dig a massive tomb out of solid rock. Artists had to paint every wall with complex spells. Carpenters had to build 3 huge coffins that fit inside each other perfectly. and goldsmiths had to create a 22-pound mask with tiny details and stone inlays. When looking at the tomb of King Tut, it looks like a total disaster behind the gold. The room is tiny, almost the size of a storage closet compared to other pharaohs. The wall paintings are messy, and some of them have dark brown spots. These spots are mold, which grew because the tomb was sealed while the paint was still wet. The artists were literally painting as the mummy was being carried down the stairs. Even the stone box that held the coffins was chipped at the corners. It looks like the workers had to use hammers to break off pieces just to make it fit into the small room. The treasures inside the tomb tell an even weirder story. When researchers looked closely at the thousands of objects, they found that many of them were not made for Tut. There were statues with faces that did not match his. There was jewelry meant for a woman's body. Most shockingly, some of the coffins had names that had been scraped off and replaced with Tut's name. It seems that when the young king died, the royal court had nothing ready. They were in a state of total panic. They had to meet the 70-day deadline or risk the anger of the gods. This led to a theory that sounded like a movie plot. If there was no mask ready for the king, the priests might have done the unthinkable. They might have gone to another tomb, one that was already sealed or prepared for someone else, and stolen the mask. They would have changed the name, modified the face, and placed it on the boy king's body. This would explain the pierced ears, the feminine features, and the different colors of gold. But it also raised a terrifying question. If the mask was stolen, who was the original owner? Who was the person powerful enough to own a 22-pound gold mask, but forgotten enough to have it taken away? The clues lead back to a woman who was once the most powerful person on the planet, Vanishing Queen. The name Nefertiti is known across the world. She was the stepmother of King Tut and the wife of the heretic King Akhenaten. Her husband had tried to change the entire religion of Egypt, moving away from many gods to just one sun god. This made the priests very angry. Nefertiti was not just a queen, she was a partner in this religious revolution. She is often shown in art wearing the tall blue crown of a ruler, but then she suddenly vanishes. She disappears from the records and her tomb has never been found. Her mummy remains one of the greatest missing prizes in history. Some historians believe that after her husband died, Nefertiti did not just go away. They think she took the throne for herself. She likely changed her name to Nefer-Neferuten and ruled as a female pharaoh. This would explain why she vanished as Nefertiti. She was busy being a king. If she was preparing for her own death, she would have had the most beautiful burial items ever made. She would have had a mask of solid gold, and since she was a woman, that mask would have pierced ears. It would have a delicate jawline and a soft face. The math started to look perfect to researchers. If Nefertiti died a few years before Tut, her tomb would have been full of treasures. When Tut died suddenly with nothing ready, the priests would have seen her tomb as a giant warehouse of gold. They could have taken her mask and changed it just enough to look like the boy king. It was a desperate plan to save the royal funeral, but proving this was a nightmare for scientists. To see if the face was replaced, you would have to take the mask apart. No museum would ever allow that. The mask is too fragile and too valuable to even touch. For decades, this idea stayed as just a guess. Older scientists laughed at it, while younger ones searched for proof. The mystery became a wall that no one could climb. Then, a clumsy mistake by a museum worker in Cairo changed everything. It opened a door that had been shut for over 3,000 years. It turned a theory into a physical investigation that the Egyptian government could not ignore. The secret was finally going to be forced out into the light. Disaster that changed everything. In August 2014, a worker at the Egyptian Museum was cleaning the display case of the mask. During the process, he accidentally bumped the golden head. The long, braided beard, which is a symbol of the king's power, snapped off. It was a disaster that made news all over the world. But instead of telling the truth, the museum staff panicked. They did not want to get in trouble for breaking the world's most famous treasure. They went to a local store and bought industrial-strength epoxy glue. This is the kind of glue used to fix car engines or broken pipes. They globbed the blue glue onto the chin and shoved the beard back on. They even left visible smears of glue on the golden face. When the lights hit the mask the next morning, the mistake was obvious. The world was outraged. The Egyptian government had to bring in a team of international experts led by a German scientist named Christian Ekman. His job was to carefully remove the hard glue and fix the beard the right way using ancient techniques. But before he put the mask back together, he had a chance that no one else had ever been given. He could scan the metal while the mask was in pieces. The team used X-ray technology to look through the layers of gold. They wanted to find out if the face was truly a separate piece that had been added later. They looked for solder lines or hidden seams. After months of work, the report came out. It said the mask was one solid piece. The X-rays did not show any evidence of a stolen face. The report stated that the gold in the face matched the gold in the stripes. The theory of Nefertiti was declared dead by the experts. The mask was put back in its case, and the world was told that King Tut was the original and only owner. But some material physicists were not convinced. They argued that X-rays have limits. X-rays can see through things, but they cannot see the history of how a metal was worked. If a master goldsmith hammers two pieces of gold together with enough heat and pressure, the seam can become invisible to a standard X-ray. It becomes a single block of metal at a molecular level. To see the truth, you would need something much more powerful than a hospital X-ray. You would need to look at the atoms themselves to see if they remember being shaped in a different way. By the end of 2024, that technology was finally ready to be tested on the gold of the pharaohs. Dr. Helena Voss is a physicist who works with quantum resonance imaging. This technology is so new that it is mostly used in high-level physics labs. It works by measuring the tiny vibrations of atoms. When gold is heated, hammered, or carved, the atoms in that spot change their vibration pattern. Even if you polish the surface until it is flat, the atoms deep inside still carry the memory of the original work. In late 2024, her team got a secret permit to scan the mask in Cairo. They told the museum it was just a test to check the age of the gold. The scan happened late at night when the museum was empty and silent. The machine hummed as it moved over the golden face. On the laptops, the data started to look very strange. When the scanner moved over the royal name or the cartouche, the room went dead quiet. Underneath the name of Tutankhamun, the computer was showing a ghost image. It was a pattern of old carvings that had been beaten flat. The atoms showed that the gold had been scraped down and hammered over. There was a different name there once. Does it change how you look at the boy king's treasures, or is the mystery just getting started? Leave a comment below with your thoughts on this secret. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more updates on secrets the world is trying to hide.